Sam lived in a quiet neighborhood at the edge of town. His house stood at the corner of the street where cars often turned in and out. He liked the spot because he had more space for his small garden, and he could watch everything from his porch. For years it had been peaceful, but that peace started breaking when Karen became his neighbor. Karen lived a few houses down, and she was well known by everyone. She was the kind of person who always had something to say, whether people asked for it or not. She was part of the homeowners association, and she took that role very seriously. Too seriously, in fact. She would tell people how tall their grass should be, what color they should paint their fence, and even when they should put away their trash cans. Some people tried to avoid her while others argued with her, but Sam usually stayed quiet. At first, Sam thought he would not have any problem with Karen. He minded his own business, worked in his garden, and waved politely when he saw her. But one thing kept disturbing his days: his mailbox. Sam's mailbox stood right at the edge of his yard, close to the street corner. It had been there for years, a simple wooden post with a black box on top. It wasn't fancy, but it did the job. The mailman knew it well, and Sam often enjoyed checking his letters in the morning sunshine. But one morning Sam stepped outside and stopped in shock. His mailbox was lying flat on the ground. The wooden post had snapped and the box was crushed in the middle. His letters were scattered in the grass. He bent down, picked them up carefully, and looked around. At first he thought maybe kids had played a prank, or maybe the wind had knocked it over, though the night before had been calm. He fixed it quickly by nailing the post back together and setting the box upright again. He thought it was only bad luck. But a few days later, the same thing happened. His mailbox was bent sideways and fresh tire marks were on the edge of his yard. That was when he started to wonder. Sam decided to replace the mailbox with a new one. He bought a fresh wooden post, painted it white, and attached a shiny new box on top. It looked neat and clean, almost like a decoration. He was proud of it, but the new mailbox didn't last long. Within a week, it was hit again. The post cracked right at the base and the box dented badly. Sam felt his patience slipping. He leaned down, rubbed the broken wood, and shook his head. This wasn't an accident anymore. That evening, he sat on his porch and watched the street carefully. He wanted to see who was knocking his mailbox down. And then he saw it. Karen's big SUV turned the corner quickly. The car drifted close to the curb and the side mirror brushed against the box. The post bent under the pressure and fell to the side. Karen didn't even slow down. She kept driving, her window rolled down, her sunglasses shining in the sunlight. Sam stood up, his eyes wide. Now he knew the truth. Karen was the one ruining his mailbox. The next day, he walked down the street and knocked on Karen's door. She opened it, holding a phone in one hand. "Yes?" she said sharply. "Karen," Sam began, keeping his voice calm, "you hit my mailbox yesterday. It's not the first time. Could you please be careful when you drive past my corner?" Karen looked at him as if he had asked for something silly. Then she laughed lightly and waved her hand. "Oh, that old thing? Maybe you should put it somewhere else. It sticks out too far," Sam frowned. "It's exactly where it should be. It has always been there." "Well," Karen said, shrugging, "if it keeps breaking, maybe that's a sign. It's just a box. Don't take it so seriously." Before Sam could reply, she closed the door. He walked back home, his mind full of thoughts. It wasn't just the broken mailbox now. It was the way Karen didn't care. She had no guilt, no respect, not even a simple sorry. That made the problem heavier in his heart. But Sam was patient. He told himself he would not lose his temper. He fixed the mailbox again, this time using a stronger post. He hammered it deep into the ground and painted it bright red so it would stand out. Now she will see it, he thought. For a week it stayed safe. Sam almost felt relieved. He checked the box every day and it stood tall, red against the green grass. But then one Friday afternoon he heard a loud crash from outside. He rushed out and there it was again. His mailbox lay broken in the dirt, the red paint scratched off, the post split in half. This time he didn't even need proof. He knew it was Karen, and when he looked at his yard he saw fresh tire tracks again. Sam felt frustration boiling inside. He was a quiet man, not one to argue, but even he had limits. He picked up the mailbox, held it in his hands, and sighed deeply. The next morning, as he was repairing it once more, one of his neighbors walked over. It was Mr. Lee, who lived across the street. He looked at the broken pieces and shook his head. "Karen again." Sam nodded silently. Mr. Lee chuckled and said, She knocked over my garden fence last month, said it was my fault for building it too close to the sidewalk. That woman never admits anything. Sam gave a small smile, but inside he felt tired. He thought about how much time he had already spent fixing the mailbox. He thought about how many more times this would happen if nothing changed. And slowly a new thought began forming in his mind. What if he didn't just fix the mailbox? What if he built one that could not be broken? That evening, he sat at his table and started sketching ideas on a piece of paper. He drew a stronger post, maybe metal instead of wood. He thought about digging deeper into the ground, making a foundation that could not be moved. He even considered adding weight to the box itself so it would not fall easily. The more he thought about it, the more determined he became. He realized he was not just protecting a box, he was standing up for himself. As the sun went down, Sam looked out at the broken mailbox one more time. The wooden post leaned sadly against the grass, almost like a defeated soldier. But in Sam's heart, a spark of determination had been lit. This was not the end of the story. It was only the beginning. The week after the latest mailbox incident, Sam woke up feeling restless. The morning sunlight poured through his window, but instead of enjoying it, he thought about the broken mailbox leaning against the grass. Each time it fell, it was not just wood and paint that got damaged. It was his sense of peace. He had spent hours fixing it, and yet Karen's careless driving had destroyed it again. He stepped outside, still wearing his slippers, and stared at the street corner. The air was crisp and birds chirped in the trees. Neighbors were going about their day, mowing lawns, watering flowers, and chatting quietly. Yet the mailbox incident made Sam feel small, as if he had no control over his own property. He thought about going over to Karen's house again. He had tried reasoning with her before, but she simply waved him off, laughing as if it was a joke. Sam knew that words alone might not be enough this time. He needed a plan, but first he had to see how serious she would be. That afternoon, he decided to take action. He set up a small camera near the mailbox, hidden in the flower bed. He wanted to make sure he had proof this time. He adjusted the lens, testing the angle. It captured the street perfectly and could clearly record any car approaching the corner. Sam nodded, satisfied. 2 days passed and Sam barely saw Karen. He almost started to relax, thinking maybe she had finally learned to drive more carefully. But on the third day, the sound came again. A loud crash that made him drop the watering can he was holding. He ran outside and froze. There was his mailbox, smashed flat again. The post was splintered, the box dented beyond repair, and his mail scattered across the lawn. Fresh tire marks ran straight to the edge of the yard. Sam felt his heart sink, but deep down he also felt something stronger: determination. This was no longer just about a mailbox. It was about respect. He picked up the broken pieces and noticed a faint scratch on the curb where a tire had scraped. It was proof clear as daylight that someone had driven too close deliberately. He took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. This time he would not just fix the mailbox. He would stop the problem at its root. He grabbed his phone and typed a message, intending to text Karen. "Karen," he wrote, "your car hit my mailbox again. This is the 3rd time this month. Please be careful when driving past my corner." He stared at the phone for a moment and then hit send. Almost immediately, Karen's reply came. "Oh, that old box again? Maybe it is in the wrong place. It sticks out too far. It's not my fault." Sam's fingers tightened around the phone. He felt a flash of anger but forced himself to take a step back. He knew reacting angrily would only make things worse. He set the phone down and went back into his house. Instead of dwelling on frustration, Sam started planning. He pulled out a notebook and a pencil and began sketching ideas for a stronger mailbox. He wanted something that could not be knocked over, something that would withstand any accidental or careless hit. He thought about metal posts, reinforced foundations, and thicker boxes. He considered concrete, bolts, and heavy steel. He also wanted the mailbox to look normal so Karen wouldn't suspect anything unusual. It should blend with the street but be nearly impossible to damage. As he sketched, Sam realized that this project could take time. He would need materials, effort, and careful planning. But the thought of finally solving the problem motivated him. He felt a spark of excitement he hadn't felt in weeks. The next morning, Sam visited the hardware store. He walked down the aisles slowly, examining steel posts, concrete mixes, and heavy-duty mailboxes. The clerk watched him curiously. "You building something big?" the clerk asked. Sam smiled politely. Just a new mailbox. One that can survive more than a car bump, the clerk chuckled. Good luck with that. Sam purchased everything he thought he would need: a steel post, heavy-duty bolts, a large metal mailbox, concrete bags, and tools for digging and assembling. He loaded the car carefully and drove home, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervous energy. Back at his house, Sam began preparing the spot for the new mailbox. He measured the area, marking the exact spot in the ground. He dug a deep hole, deeper than any mailbox required. The soil was hard and rocks made it challenging, but Sam persisted. Each shovelful he removed felt like progress toward solving the problem once and for all. By mid-afternoon, the hole was ready. Sam poured the concrete into the bottom, forming a strong foundation. He positioned the steel post carefully, checking it with a level to ensure it stood straight. Once it was secure, he let the concrete settle, feeling satisfied that the base would hold firm. The next step was attaching the mailbox itself. Sam selected the largest, most durable box he could find. He drilled holes in the metal post and used thick bolts to attach the mailbox tightly. He tested it by pushing and pulling. It didn't move. It was strong, solid, and completely unshakable. He painted the mailbox a simple black color, similar to the old one. From a distance, it looked like a normal mailbox. Nobody would guess that beneath its surface it was built to resist almost anything. As Sam stood back, wiping sweat from his forehead, he felt a sense of satisfaction. He had spent hours building it, but he knew it would last. He knew that this time Karen would not win. For the next few days, Sam observed the street carefully. He made small notes on the camera he had set up. He wanted to see how Karen would react. He suspected that sooner or later she would try to hit the mailbox again, just as she had before. Sure enough, one afternoon, Karen's SUV appeared at the corner. Sam held his breath, pretending to water his garden. The car came closer to the curb, her window open, her usual sunglasses on. Sam could hear the faint sound of tires brushing against the edge of the lawn. Then he saw it. Karen's car hit the new mailbox. But this time nothing happened. The metal post stood firm. The mailbox didn't move. The car bounced slightly from the impact, and a small piece of plastic from her bumper fell onto the street. Karen stopped the car and got out. Her eyes widened as she examined the mailbox. She tried to push it with her hands, but it wouldn't budge. She walked around the car, frowning, looking at the corner where the old mailbox had fallen multiple times. Sam walked slowly toward the street, keeping calm. "Hi, Karen," he said quietly. "It seems my mailbox is safe now." Karen's face turned red and she waved her hand angrily. "This isn't fair. It's against HOA rules. You can't just make it so strong." Sam shrugged. "It's my property. I made sure it's safe. You can still drive past it carefully if you want." Karen muttered something under her breath, got back into her car and drove away slowly, clearly unhappy. Sam smiled quietly and went back to his porch. From that day on, the mailbox stayed perfectly fine. Karen never hit it again. The neighbors noticed the change and even asked Sam for advice about building strong mailboxes. Sam realized that patience, planning, and a clever idea were more powerful than anger. He felt proud, not just for protecting his mailbox, but for standing up calmly and smartly. The mailbox became a quiet symbol of resilience and clever thinking, and Sam knew he had finally solved the problem once and for all. Sam woke early that Saturday morning, feeling a mixture of excitement and determination. Today would be the day he built the final mailbox that would never fall again. The air was fresh, birds sang in the trees, and a soft breeze moved through his yard. He looked at the old broken mailbox leaning against the fence. He had removed the last one carefully, and now the spot was ready for a new beginning. He had planned everything the night before. The mailbox would be strong enough to survive any careless hit, but it would look ordinary from the street. Nobody would suspect the clever design hidden beneath the surface. Sam wanted to solve the problem for good. He started by measuring the ground carefully. He marked the exact spot where the post would go, making sure it was level and straight. Precision mattered. Even the strongest materials would fail if not placed correctly. Next, he dug a deep hole for the post. Unlike ordinary mailboxes that required only a few feet of digging, Sam dug much deeper. The soil was tough in some areas, but he worked steadily. Shovelful by shovelful, he cleared rocks and roots, determined to create a strong foundation. As he dug, he imagined Karen driving by carelessly and the mailbox staying perfectly upright. The thought made him smile quietly. Once the hole was ready, Sam mixed the concrete. He poured water into the bag and stirred carefully until the mixture was thick and smooth. He poured the concrete into the hole, filling it halfway, then placed the steel post in the center. He checked it with a level to make sure it stood perfectly straight. Every angle, every adjustment mattered. After placing the post, Sam filled the rest of the hole with concrete, packing it tightly so it would harden into a solid base. He tapped the sides gently to remove air pockets, making sure the structure would be unshakable. Then he stepped back and let the concrete settle. While it hardened, he cleaned his tools and prepared the mailbox itself. Sam had chosen a large, durable metal mailbox. Unlike ordinary mailboxes, this one was reinforced with thick steel walls inside. It was heavy but practical. He drilled holes in the back, planning to bolt it securely to the post. Each bolt was strong and long, designed to withstand force from any angle. He lifted the mailbox carefully, positioning it at the top of the steel post. With steady hands, he tightened each bolt, checking that it would not move even slightly. When he was done, he pushed and pulled on the mailbox. It didn't budge. Not even a little. Sam nodded, satisfied. Next came the paint. He chose a simple black color, similar to the old mailbox so it would not attract unnecessary attention. He painted slowly, applying 2 coats for a smooth finish. From the street, it looked like a normal mailbox, just like all the others on the block. Nobody would guess how much thought and effort had gone into making it nearly indestructible. While the paint dried, Sam worked on the finishing touches. He added a reinforced bottom plate, bolted inside the box to prevent dents. He also added a small metal flap on the door to ensure it would close tightly and not swing open if hit by wind or an accidental bump. Even the small details mattered. By late afternoon, the mailbox was complete. Sam stepped back and examined his work. It looked simple, unremarkable, and perfectly ordinary. Yet beneath its surface, it was stronger than any mailbox in the neighborhood. He smiled, imagining Karen driving by and trying to knock it over again. Sam decided to test it carefully. He picked up a large rock from the yard and pressed it gently against the side of the box. Nothing happened. He pushed harder, but it did not move. He even leaned on it with his full weight. Still, the mailbox stayed perfectly upright. Sam laughed quietly. This time it would take more than a careless driver to knock it down. After finishing, he cleaned his yard and set up his hidden camera again. He wanted to capture Karen's reaction when she inevitably came near the mailbox. He placed the camera in the flower bed, angled perfectly to see the street corner without being visible. This time he would have proof of her actions if necessary, but also he wanted to enjoy the moment of her surprise. The next day, Sam went about his usual morning routine. He watered the plants, checked his emails, and sipped coffee on the porch. From the corner of his eye, he noticed Karen's SUV approaching. She drove as usual, fast and careless, heading toward his mailbox. Sam felt a small thrill. The moment he had prepared for had finally arrived. Karen's car swerved close to the curb. She glanced around as if looking for someone and then continued toward the mailbox. Sam held his breath. He watched as the side of her car brushed against the curb near the mailbox. But this time there was no crash of wood, no splintering sound. The mailbox stayed upright, solid, and unyielding. Karen stopped the car and stared. Her eyebrows knitted together as she examined the mailbox. She tried to push it with her hands, but it did not move. She even leaned her weight against it, rocking slightly, but the mailbox remained perfectly upright. Sam walked slowly to the street, maintaining a calm expression. "Hello, Karen," he said casually. "It seems my mailbox is safe now." Karen's face turned red with frustration. "This isn't fair," she shouted. "You can't just make it so strong. The HOA rules don't allow it." Sam shook his head and smiled politely. "It's my property. I made sure it's secure. You can drive past it carefully if you like, or just avoid the corner." Karen muttered something under her breath, climbed back into her car, and drove away slowly, clearly annoyed. She did not hit the mailbox again, and her SUV tires stayed well away from the corner. After she left, Sam stood by the mailbox, feeling a sense of pride. The problem that had caused him so much frustration for weeks was finally solved. The mailbox would now stay upright no matter what. He had turned his anger into action, patience into planning, and a clever idea into a real solution. Over the next few days, neighbors noticed the new mailbox. Some stopped to admire it, and some even asked Sam how he had built such a strong structure. He explained carefully without revealing every detail, saying it was a mix of careful construction, strong materials, and proper planning. The mailbox became a symbol in the neighborhood. Everyone knew Sam had built something that even Karen could not destroy. The story of the unmovable mailbox spread quickly, and people began to respect Sam more, not just for his cleverness, but for his calm and patient approach. Sam felt a sense of peace he hadn't felt in weeks. He could finally check his mail without fear, enjoy his mornings on the porch, and tend to his garden. More importantly, he realized something important. Problems could be solved with careful thought, not anger. Even Karen noticed the change. She drove past the corner carefully, muttering complaints under her breath. But she never dared touch the mailbox again. Sam did not gloat or celebrate. He simply continued his daily life, proud of the quiet victory he had achieved. By the end of the week, the mailbox stood strong, shining under the sun. Sam checked it every morning as usual, and every morning it remained perfect. He smiled each time he saw it. Not because of the mailbox itself, but because of what it represented. Patience, planning, and a smart solution to a problem that once seemed impossible. The neighborhood returned to its usual rhythm. Children played on the street. Neighbors waved to each other, and Karen, though still loud and opinionated, no longer caused trouble for Sam. The mailbox remained a quiet reminder that clever thinking often wins over careless behavior. The week after Sam completed his special mailbox, the neighborhood seemed unusually quiet. The sun shone brightly over the lawns, birds chirped from the trees, and a gentle breeze moved through the streets. Sam walked around his garden, checking the flowers he had planted, feeling a sense of calm he hadn't felt in weeks. But deep down, he knew it was only a matter of time before Karen returned. She was persistent, careless, and stubborn. He had built the mailbox strong, but he wanted to be ready for her next move. That morning, Sam stood by the porch with a cup of coffee, keeping a watchful eye on the street corner. He noticed cars driving past slowly, neighbors jogging, and children riding bicycles. Everything seemed normal. Then he saw her, Karen's big SUV, turning the corner as she often did, the same confident, fast drive she always took. Sam's heart beat a little faster. He knew she was about to test the mailbox. He moved closer to the porch railing, pretending to water the plants. From here he could see the car approaching, the street corner, and the mailbox clearly. Karen drove closer to the curb, her usual sunglasses reflecting the sunlight. She glanced around as if looking for witnesses and then aimed toward the mailbox. Sam held his breath. The tires brushed against the curb near the mailbox, but this time there was a metallic clang instead of wood breaking. Karen slammed on her brakes and froze. Her eyes widened as she stared at the mailbox, which stood perfectly upright. She pushed it lightly with her hand. It did not move. She leaned harder, rocking slightly, but the mailbox remained steady. Sam stepped onto the lawn calmly. "Hello, Karen," he said, his voice steady and confident. "It seems my mailbox is safe now." Karen's face turned bright red. She muttered something angrily under her breath. "This isn't fair. You can't just make it so strong. The HOA rules don't allow it." Sam shrugged. "It's my property. I built it to last. You can still drive past carefully, or just stay further from the curb." Karen huffed and walked around her car, examining the mailbox from all angles. She pushed on it with her hands, tried rocking it, even tapped it with her keys. Nothing worked. Every attempt failed. She muttered angrily and finally got back in her car, slamming the door. Sam smiled quietly. He knew this was the moment he had been preparing for. His plan had worked. Karen could no longer damage the mailbox, and she could not deny it. Later that day, Sam walked around his yard, checking the mailbox again. He tapped it lightly to make sure it stayed solid. Every test confirmed it. The foundation was secure, the steel post was unshakable, and the mailbox itself was stronger than anything Karen could throw at it. The neighbors, curious as ever, came outside to watch. Mrs. Lopez, who lived across the street, came over and whispered to Sam, "I saw Karen trying to push it this morning. She couldn't even make it wobble." Sam nodded, smiling quietly. "I told her it would be safe," he said. "Now she knows." Word of Karen's failed attempt spread quickly through the neighborhood. Children mentioned it while playing, neighbors brought it up during their morning walks, and even the mailman commented, "That mailbox has survived every test." That evening, Sam reflected on the week's events. He realized that he had not only protected his mailbox but also taught a lesson. Sometimes patience, preparation, and clever thinking worked better than arguing or complaining. He felt proud not just of the mailbox but of the calm and smart approach he had taken. The next morning, Karen returned. This time she drove slowly, keeping well away from the curb. Sam noticed her careful approach as he sipped coffee on his porch. She muttered angrily under her breath, clearly frustrated by her inability to damage the mailbox. He smiled quietly, feeling satisfied that his planning had paid off. Over the next few days, life in the neighborhood returned to a more normal rhythm. Children played in the streets. Neighbors waved to each other, and Karen, though still loud and opinionated, did not approach Sam's mailbox carelessly again. Sam took the time to maintain his yard and check the mailbox regularly. Each morning he felt a small sense of victory as he saw it standing perfectly upright. The mailbox was no longer just a container for letters. It had become a symbol of persistence, cleverness, and patience. One afternoon, Mr. Lee, Sam's neighbor across the street, stopped by. "I saw Karen yesterday," he said quietly. She drove past and muttered to herself, "She hasn't hit your mailbox once since it was rebuilt." Sam nodded, feeling a sense of pride. "It's strong enough to stay no matter what," he said. Sometimes the best answer isn't yelling or arguing. It's planning and building something that lasts. Mr. Lee smiled. "You're right. I should remember that next time Karen bothers me." That evening, as the sun began to set, Sam walked down to check the mailbox one last time. The light hit it perfectly, making the black paint shine softly. He tapped it lightly and it stayed solid. He leaned against it, feeling a quiet satisfaction. In the following days, Sam noticed something remarkable. Karen avoided the corner entirely. She still drove down the street, but she kept her distance, muttering angrily from inside her car. Even at HOA meetings, she did not mention the mailbox again. Sam realized that his clever solution had not only protected his property, but had also changed Karen's behavior. Neighbors began stopping by more often, sharing stories about their own struggles with Karen. Sam listened patiently, offering advice and encouragement. The mailbox became a symbol in the neighborhood, a reminder that careful planning and clever thinking could solve even persistent problems. One morning, as Sam collected his mail, he noticed a group of children gathered nearby, pointing at the mailbox. "Wow," one said. "That mailbox never falls down." Sam smiled and waved. "It's very strong," he said. "Sometimes it takes patience and careful work to make things last." The children nodded, impressed by the story. Even Karen's presence seemed less important now. The mailbox had become more than just a piece of property. It had become a lesson in resilience. Weeks passed and the neighborhood settled into a calm routine. Karen drove slowly, keeping her distance. Sam enjoyed quiet mornings, tending his garden and checking the mailbox without fear. He realized that the problem that had once caused frustration had now become a story of clever thinking and patience. The mailbox stood tall and strong at the corner, a quiet testament to careful planning. Sam knew that he had finally solved the problem for good, and more than that, he had learned an important lesson. Sometimes, the best way to handle a persistent problem is to think ahead, act wisely, and stay calm. By the end of the month, the mailbox had survived every test. Karen never hit it again. The neighbors continued to admire it, and Sam felt a deep sense of satisfaction. His clever solution had worked, and the street corner was peaceful once more. Sam often thought about how simple actions could have a lasting impact. A strong mailbox, careful planning, and patience had changed not just his property, but also the behavior of a neighbor. It was a quiet victory, but a meaningful one. After weeks of tension and careful observation, Sam finally felt a sense of calm in his neighborhood. The special mailbox he had built stood tall at the corner of his yard, its black paint shining softly under the sun. It had survived every attempt to knock it over, and Karen, despite her previous persistence, had given up trying. Sam woke one morning to the gentle sound of birds and the distant chatter of children playing. He walked to the mailbox, checking it as usual, and smiled. It was perfect. The bolts were tight, the steel post unshakable, and the reinforced box still gleamed in the morning light. For the first time in weeks, he felt truly at peace. Life in the neighborhood slowly returned to normal. Neighbors began to wave and chat more freely, no longer afraid of Karen's sharp comments or sudden complaints. Even children rode their bicycles near Sam's corner, pointing occasionally at the mailbox with excitement. "Look at that," a boy exclaimed one morning, pointing at the mailbox. "It never falls." Sam chuckled quietly. "It's strong," he said, kneeling to straighten a small flower near the base. Sometimes the best results come from patience and careful work. The mailbox had become more than just a container for letters. It was now a symbol of quiet strength and clever thinking. Neighbors often discussed it during their walks, telling stories about how Sam had managed to solve a problem that had frustrated him for weeks. Karen, however, remained a part of the neighborhood. She drove her SUV down the street, but she kept her distance from Sam's corner. Each time she passed, she muttered under her breath, clearly frustrated that her usual tactics no longer worked. Sam never gloated or called her out. He simply observed quietly, knowing that her frustration was a small victory in itself. One afternoon, Mr. Lee came over, holding a cup of coffee. "Sam," he said with a smile, "I saw Karen drive past today. She stayed well away from the mailbox." "She hasn't touched it since you rebuilt it," Sam nodded. "It works," he said simply. "Sometimes the best solution is not arguing or yelling. It's planning, patience, and a little clever thinking." Mr. Lee laughed. "You're right. I should take notes for my own yard. I've had my fence bent by her car before." Over the following weeks, the mailbox became a quiet topic of conversation. Neighbors admired its strength and design, and some even asked Sam for advice on building stronger mailboxes of their own. He shared tips carefully, explaining the importance of a deep foundation, strong materials, and precise assembly. One morning, Sam received a small package in the mailbox. Inside was a thank you note from the mailman. "Thank you for making my job easier," it read. "Your mailbox is one of the safest and strongest on my route. I don't have to worry about damaged letters anymore." Sam smiled as he read the note, feeling that his effort had not only solved his problem but also helped others. Karen, of course, continued to be part of the neighborhood. She attended HOA meetings, spoke loudly, and often complained about small issues. But Sam's mailbox had taught her a subtle lesson. Persistence and clever solutions could overcome even the most stubborn challenges. One evening, as the sun began to set, Sam walked down to the mailbox again. The warm light made the black paint shine softly. He tapped it gently with his hand and it stayed solid. He leaned against it, thinking about the journey he had been through. Weeks ago, he had felt frustrated, angry, and powerless. Now he felt proud, calm, and content. He realized that the mailbox represented more than just a solution to a problem. It symbolized his patience, planning, and the careful thinking that had turned a difficult situation into a quiet victory. Sam had learned that even when faced with a neighbor who refused to cooperate, there were ways to protect his property and maintain his peace of mind. Over time, the neighborhood continued to settle into a calm rhythm. Children played in the streets, neighbors waved and shared stories, and Karen, though still loud, no longer caused problems for Sam. The mailbox had become a fixture at the corner, admired for its strength and clever design. One morning, as Sam collected his mail, a young neighbor ran up to him. "Mr. Sam," she said excitedly, "your mailbox is amazing. It never falls down even when cars get close." Sam smiled warmly. "Thank you," he said. "It's important to build things carefully. Strong foundations and careful planning make all the difference." The young girl nodded, impressed by the story. She ran off to tell her friends, and Sam felt a quiet pride. His mailbox had become more than just a piece of property. It had become a lesson in patience, clever thinking, and persistence. Weeks turned into months, and the mailbox remained perfect. Sam continued his daily routines, tending his garden, checking his mail, and enjoying the quiet mornings. Each time he passed the corner, he smiled at the sight of the strong, unyielding mailbox. It had survived every test, endured every careless attempt, and stood firm against frustration and impatience. Karen, meanwhile, continued to drive carefully past the corner, her SUV tires well away from the curb. She muttered under her breath occasionally, but she never again attempted to knock over the mailbox. Sam had won not through confrontation, but through clever planning and patience. The neighborhood gradually began to see Sam differently. They admired his quiet strength, his clever solution, and his calm approach to a difficult problem. Even those who had feared Karen before now laughed freely about the story of the unmovable mailbox. One sunny afternoon, Sam's neighbor, Mrs. Lopez, stopped by with a small plate of cookies. "Sam," she said warmly, "I wanted to thank you. Your mailbox has taught all of us a lesson. It's amazing how calm thinking and planning can solve a problem better than arguing or complaining." Sam accepted the cookies with a smile. "Thank you," he said. "I just wanted a solution that worked. It's nice to know it helped others too." Over time, the mailbox became a small landmark in the neighborhood. Visitors and delivery drivers recognized it, neighbors admired it, and children pointed at it as they rode their bicycles. It was no longer just a mailbox. It was a story, a lesson, and a quiet victory for clever thinking and patience. Sam reflected on everything that had happened. He remembered the frustration, the repeated damage, and the moments of doubt when he wondered if he could solve the problem. He realized that those challenges had taught him valuable lessons: patience, perseverance, careful planning, and the importance of staying calm even in frustrating situations. By the end of the year, the mailbox stood tall and strong, just as it had on the first day. Sam continued to check it daily, enjoying the simple pleasure of seeing it upright and secure. He knew that no matter what happened, it would remain a symbol of resilience and clever thinking. The neighborhood continued its quiet rhythm. Karen still complained about small things at HOA meetings, but she never caused trouble for Sam again. The mailbox had quietly changed the dynamic, showing that thoughtful action could overcome even the most stubborn challenges. Sam felt a sense of deep satisfaction. He had not only protected his property, but also maintained his peace of mind. The mailbox had become more than just a physical object. It was a symbol of persistence, clever thinking, and the quiet victories that come from careful planning. Neighbors continued to admire Sam's clever solution, and the story of the unmovable mailbox spread through the street. It became a lesson for young and old alike, showing that patience, planning, and intelligence often triumph over stubbornness and carelessness. Even Karen, for all her complaints, never attempted to hit the mailbox again. She drove past carefully, muttering under her breath, but Sam no longer worried. The mailbox had won the battle, and he had learned the power of thinking ahead. As the sun set over the neighborhood one evening, Sam walked to the mailbox, tapped it gently, and smiled. It had survived every challenge, every careless attempt, and every frustrated moment. The mailbox stood as a testament to clever thinking, patience, and quiet strength. Sam returned to his porch feeling peaceful. He watched the neighborhood settle into its usual calm rhythm. Children played, neighbors chatted, and even Karen drove carefully past the corner. The mailbox remained strong, a quiet symbol of resilience, and a reminder that sometimes the best solution is not to argue, but to plan carefully and act wisely. In the end, Sam knew that he had done more than protect a mailbox. He had shown that patience, cleverness, and determination could solve even the most persistent problems. The mailbox stood strong at the corner, admired by all, and the neighborhood had learned a valuable lesson in the power of careful thinking. Sam smiled as he collected his mail, feeling a sense of pride and satisfaction. The story had reached its quiet, perfect ending. The mailbox was safe, the neighborhood was calm, and he had proven that clever thinking always wins.